Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Mike Odyssey, and now it's time for Way Forward Presents. While I go back to the studio and get ready, I'm going to leave you guys with Paul over in the field. So without further ado, take it away, Paul.
Hi, this is Paul Gale Network, and I am here with Indie Mania at Wayforward in Valencia, California. Let's go inside and have some fun. Voldy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Shall we go inside?
Step right in.
All right. Thank you for having us. All right. So Paul Gale here with Tyrannical Overlord of Wayforward, Mr. Voldy Way.
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good. Thank you for having us. Can you tell us your start of Wayforward? What made you want to become a part of the video game industry? Your earliest inspirations, anything that you've got. Very interested to hear your story.
Sure. Yeah, I fell in love with programming when I was 12. My best friend got a Commodore 64, and back then, if you had a computer, you had to know how to program because the operating system was BASIC. It was a programming language. So I was spending all my waking hours over at his house, and that's where I learned how to program. And then, and of course, games. You know, when you're 12, what do you program but games? And then later on, it was on my 20th birthday that I decided, what am I doing with my life? You know, I should go out and get a job, but, you know, I really wanted to develop games. There wasn't much of an opportunity in that at the time. So, but I figured I'll have a go at it. And if it doesn't work out, I can always go out and get a real job. But so far, it's been 34 years and I haven't had to get a real job.
That's awesome. That's a really good beginning. And that was 1990 then, right?
Yeah.
Now, you began working on video games as early as what platforms? Was it the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era? Or what were some of those first games or first consoles that you programmed for?
Well, initially it was actually Windows, Microsoft Windows, but it was 2.1. So they didn't have controller support or sound support, and it didn't really work out. And so I ended up getting opportunities to work on some Super Nintendo games as a freelancer, Mickey's Ultimate Challenge. And then just through random situations, that's how I ended up hooking up with Matt Bozon, who's our creative director today, and Rob Buchanan. They were roommates at the time going to Cal Arts. And Rob still works here. He's done everything from directing, animation, you know, everything since then. And we're still working together today. So, yeah, we did Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Game Boy Black and White, Game Gear, Game Boy Color, and then of course the PC stuff. PC Windows has been going on, well, and also PC MS DOS. You know, pretty much, you know, during that time as well.
With having developed for so many years, how are you still as passionate about creating video games now as you were 3.5 decades ago?
Well, like I said, it still doesn't feel like a real job to me because every project is different. There's always new things to learn. I've heard about some people who get tired of that never-ending hamster wheel of learning. Like once they get good at something, the platforms change, things change. But personally, I love that because there's never a dull moment. And it doesn't feel like the same thing. Like every day is something new. There's new challenges. Every project, there's always something new. Plus, it's creative. It's like, I mean, do filmmakers get bored and say, I want to stop doing films? Or musicians, right? Like you don't hear about musicians like, you know what, this whole rock and roll thing, it's boring. I'm gonna go become a database programmer or something. Like, I don't know. I just can't imagine it ever getting boring. So.
It's that creativity, it's that challenge, it's that you're creating art, and that's forever something different that's coming to mind, right?
Exactly.
Your flagship series is Shantae. Can you talk about the beginning days of that and any of the success stories that you weren't anticipating, or anything that you would like to share in general on the franchise?
Sure. Actually, Shantae was something that Matt Bozon, our creative director, and his wife, Erin Bozon, who has actually worked with us off and on, for decades. They created that while they were students at CalArts. So even before I met them. And, they made comic books. Like, ultimately, they want to make TV shows and movies. And they own the brand Shantae. That's their baby. And then, but since we were developing games, we thought, okay, well, this is a perfect character. Let's try it in the game. And now, 6 games later? 7? 6? Kind of lost count. A lot of Shantae. You can see there's Shantae
It's been a good
everywhere.
half dozen or so.
Yeah, it's great. And it was always something when we, like, in between projects or back burner projects, we would have something Shantae going in the background. That's why, like, Risky's Revenge, I think, took 8 years or something, because sometimes the paying projects would come up and kind of keep us busy, and so it would get pushed to the back burner. So it took a while, but I think that's how it is with your, like, passion projects.
You worked on a variety of platforms over the years. How do you adapt your development to each platform, both transitioning from generation to generation, which is kind of one way to look at it, and the other way, simultaneously working on several platforms at once when a game has to release on several platforms?
Well, it's become much easier now for several reasons. In the old days, it was difficult because there was no Unity or Unreal. We had to develop everything from scratch. So if a new platform came out, we would hope that we would get access to the hardware early enough to kind of port our engine to it. And then some of the platforms had very unique controllers, like the Wii or the 3DS, or unique elements that made it more challenging to port, because you couldn't do a straight port. You wanted to take advantage of the unique features of those platforms. It seems like that's less of an issue now. Most of the platforms, are more similar, and then also there's engines like Unity or Unreal. And we still use our own WF engine, not like super imaginative name, but our Wayforward engine.
I like it.
We still use that some of our Shantae games and Spider Swords. We have a few other games that are in that, but most of the games we've done in recent years were either in Unity or Unreal. And since they get access to the hardware very, very early, it makes it easy to just release on all the platforms. In fact, our build server is constantly building builds for all platforms at once. So basically, if we have a project in production, at any given time, you can play a build on any of the platforms.
You've developed over 200 products. Is that correct?
Yes. We know it's over 200. It might be approaching 300, but it's embarrassing. We kind of lost count because there are some little obscure projects that just random stuff comes up. I mean, at one point we were the world's largest developer of EEG neurofeedback software. We've worked on robotics projects. We've worked on location-based projects for cruise ships and things like that. And then sometimes we were just like cleanup crew. We came in, a project was almost done, they needed extra help. So if you count all those little random various projects, I'm sure there's over 300. But at some point, one of these days, we should probably really go back through the archives and figure out, get an exact count.
Okay, Voldy, we got to get into some secret territory here. You've worked on a lot of games. A lot of titles have come from Wayforward that were successful. But can you tell us some of the ones that were in development that almost came to but never did? Let's hear it. Tell us about the projects.
Okay. Well, there was one that, oh shoot, I shouldn't talk about that one. Okay, let me think. Okay, there was another one that, oh man, I can't talk about.
You could do it. You could do it.
All right. Okay. Oh, I know. Okay.
Oh, come on. I guess that's a sign that you probably shouldn't.
I guess not.
The pillow dictates. Okay, how about this? Instead of divulging from the vault what almost came to but couldn't, what's an IP, be it from a game franchise out there, a comic book, TV show, cartoon, movie series, anything that you could think of that is pretty cool that you would like to take on? Anything that in your mind that you haven't worked with before that would be a fun project to eventually do with Wayforward?
Wow. Well, I mean, a million spring to mind, but the first one that popped in was Umbrella Academy, the based on the comics, because the comics were so like such a vibrant, cool art style, and so many possibilities with that, and and it's not just because I'm probably related to Gerard and Mikey Way, although I think I am. I have no proof. I have nothing to back this up. But there aren't that many Ways, or that sounds weird. People with the last name Way, and so I'm just waiting for 23andMe to like send me a notification saying, "Oh, look, you're probably fourth cousins with Gerard and Mikey." But anyway, I've always been a big fan of My Chemical Romance and the Umbrella Academy comics, so that one springs to mind. But I'm sure there are a million others as well.
That's really cool. We should find out if you have that connection and get that happening. What's the most memorable fan reaction you've had over the years, whether it was at an event, through social media, somebody coming up to you, being at an E3? Do you have a memorable fan interaction of somebody saying how much they loved a particular title of yours, or being at a booth and seeing the audience reaction to a game? Do you have anything like that that comes to mind?
Well, one that springs to mind was when Nintendo first announced our Advance Wars reboot on Nintendo Direct, and then afterwards, just watching like reactions. I mean, I thought people would like it. I was hoping people would like it, but I had no idea. Like some of these reactions, and these were YouTubers, streamers, they were just like jumping up and down, running around the room, screaming, like it was crazy. So that was a very exciting moment for me. Just one other completely unrelated, but a long time ago, I was walking through Six Flags Magic Mountain, and I was wearing my Wayforward shirt, and someone said, hey, did you guys make the regular show game? And I'm like, yeah, that's like pretty obscure. Like, why? No one's actually mentioned that before. And he's like, oh man, I love that game. It's so great. And Six Flags Magic Mountain is right across the street. So anyway, he ended up working for us for like 5 years after that.
That's really cool. That's a neat story of a small world and nice things coming together. Thank you for sharing that one too. I imagine that it feels good to get the positive review scores, to hear everybody talking about how awesome they like your game. But in the event that somebody gives you a negative score, or not such good comments, or downplays the title, and how many years and how many people hours have gone into producing it, and then to have someone talk about it like this, and that probably doesn't feel so good. How does it feel? Do you even read it? Do you balance it out? Tell me some of that thought process of what makes you keep going, and just all that in a nutshell.
Well, I think I have a pretty thick skin for that. Maybe I didn't always, because I think in the early days of social media, it kind of bugged me. But now I guess I just assume that there are so many trolls on social media, and some of them might even be just doing it for they might not even feel that way. They're just doing it just to provoke controversy or something.
Create
clout,
or
whatever. Yeah. So so honestly, it doesn't actually bother me as much as it used to. I mean, I'll still read it, but I just kind of tune it out. Like, there's always something. Even when I watch other stuff that I think is just like the greatest thing in the world, and then I think it bugs me more when I watch something else about some other product that we didn't make, and I think it's the greatest thing in the world, and then a comment blasted. Then I get all like, because then I feel like I should come in and defend them. When it's us, it's like I just kind of dismiss it as, oh, they're probably trolls.
Wayforward is as successful as they come. in terms of being an independent developer, and now for 34 years, going on 35 around the corner, what would be your best advice to the up-and-coming folks? For instance, at Indie Mania, we have two-person teams that have been working on a game for several years. That's as indie as it gets, from their living room. We've got some teams that are smaller studio-based, but might only be releasing their second or third game, maybe the first, but small teams. And then hopefully some are inspired out there to create their own product. What would be your advice to them, and to take that creativity and go forward, and to try hard, and just any kind of knowledge, wisdom, words of encouragement to both those participating in our show and folks that are kind of teetering, should I get into this or not?
Wow, I could probably ramble on for hours about that.
We've
But-
got some tape, as long as the phone doesn't overheat. All right, Voldy, well, thank you one more time for having us over here. It was great meeting you, talking about everything.